Okay. So the handout that I've given you is to create an account on servsafe.com. Does anybody have one of those yet? One. Okay. All right. So you're going to need to do this before Friday morning so that you can take the exam. If you can pull your mask over your face, that'd be great. Okay. So what this handout shows you is how you're going to create an account. You're going to click on login to create an account. If you don't have one, you can go create a new profile. And then on the handout, I gave you a list of everything. You use your first name, last name, country, street address, city, state, zip. Create a user ID. You're going to have to remember what that is. It's going to be, this is like the biggest issue is for everybody to remember exactly what your student ID, or not your student ID, but your user ID that you create for this is. It's going to have to be unique. There are millions of people that have already taken this exam. So like if you use your first initial and last name, that may not be unique. So make sure that it is something that you're going to be able to remember. If not, write it down. Same thing with the password. You're going to need to be able to remember what your password is. Go ahead and put your phone number in, select the secret question. You will not be checking your score because you haven't taken an exam yet. So then you just click the I'm not a robot and then that would be great, but use the email that you check the most because it should send you a confirmation email that your account is set up. So then once you hit the register and you have all that information in there, you'll have an account. And then, let's see. I don't think it's going to let me get far without an account here. The day of the exam, we're going to click on ServSafe, take your exam, and ask you to log in. As the screen comes up, says which exam do you want to take. It used to be the first one on the thing, now it's all down toward the bottom. It's the third one from the bottom. It says ServSafe Manager Certification Online Exam. Selecting your version, you're going to choose English language. There's a user agreement. Pretty much says you're not going to cheat. Accept that. And then this is where you enter your exam access code. Again, that should be in the front of the book, on the back of the book that you bought in order to take this class. And last time I asked, everybody said they had one. Everybody still have one? Okay. So you're going to enter your exam number there. It's going to, I have an example of it that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. It's, I don't know, somewhere around 12 characters long. It's all capital letters and numbers and has some hyphens in it. So you have to type it exactly the way that it shows up. And then you're going to hit continue and it's going to ask me to type in my number. So I'll have a number specifically for that day. So any questions about what we're planning to do? This is Friday morning again. Okay, so I did this last fall whenever we had a whole bunch of storms come through.
It only takes about 20 seconds to wash your hands correctly. Start by rubbing your hands and arms running wide, as hot as you can comfortably stand. Next, apply enough soap to build up a good lather. Then scrub your hands and arms vigorously for 10 to 15 seconds. Yes, even your arms. And don't forget to clean under your fingernails and between your fingers. When you're finished, rinse your hands and arms thoroughly under warm running water. Then dry them using a single-use paper towel or hand dryer. Never ever use your apron or any part of your clothing to do it. Once your hands are clean, use a paper towel to turn off the faucet and to open the restroom door so you don't contaminate them again. Congratulations! You now know the right way to wash your hands. Now, let's take a look at when to do it. First off, always wash your hands before you start work. It's just a good practice to get into, because you may not remember when you washed them last or what you touched. You also need to wash them after using the restroom. Many foodborne illnesses are caused when food handlers forget to do this or do it incorrectly. Other times you should wash your hands include after touching your hair, face, body, apron, or clothing. If you're going to be handling raw meat, poultry, or seafood, you need to be doubly careful and wash your hands both before and afterward. And hopefully it's obvious that you should wash your hands after taking out garbage, sneezing, or coughing. But did you know that you also need to wash them after eating, drinking, smoking, and chewing gum or tobacco? It's true. Additional times to wash your hands include after handling money, after using chemicals that can make food unsafe, after touching service or aquatic animals, in the kitchen or prep area, and then returning to it. Before putting on gloves whenever you're starting a new task, or because you just cleared tables or brushed dirty dishes. And I'm out of breath. Wow, that's a long list. When you come right down to it, you should pretty much try to wash your hands every single time you touch anything that could possibly contaminate them, including dirty equipment, work surfaces, and cloths. That never thought there was so much to hand washing, huh?
Okay, so there's a couple of questions here. 40 seconds into the video, what are we told never to do? Probably any, but I don't remember exactly what happens at 40 seconds. It is to make sure that people watch this at least 40 seconds in. You have to wash your hands both before and after. After handling raw meat. You don't have to wash your hands before you take out the trash or handle money.
Yeah, I've heard of it before. My kids have had it. They brought it home, made the whole household sick, and then of course I got sick afterwards.
Yeah, I've heard news about those. Pain so? Is that a stomach flu? Like that kind of a stomach flu?
What do you think? I'm pretty sure I got sick from something else.
According to the CDC, million people get sick with norovirus each year. Norovirus is one of the leading causes of foodborne illness. It's often referred to as stomach flu or food flu. And only a small amount of the virus can make people sick.
Oh, this is kind of embarrassing.
Well, let's just say I was sick for a week.
And so I spent like a healthy portion of the day in the bathroom. Gross.
company picnic, and I'm pretty sure I got it from something.
Oh, I definitely got it for my kids, you know, between them going to school and daycare and then they bring it home. So we've all definitely got it from them.
I had toddlers with a couple of my friends and there were kids involved, so it was from the kids or the food.
I don't know. Probably at work got it, and then everybody in that person got it. People can get norovirus from food, water, or any contaminated surface. The most common food items that norovirus is associated with are ready-to-eat food, such as produce and shellfish, which is contaminated water. But also just being in contact with someone who is infected with norovirus makes you sick. And norovirus can spread quickly in closed places.
Don't know, including vaccines.
Avoid my kids all play.
I guess I see vitamins to bulk up my immune system.
Well, stay away from people who are sick.
Probably just, you know, make sure that we all wash our hands and we make sure that, you know, we keep our hands clean.
Washing your hands will definitely help to prevent the spread of norovirus. It's also important to stay home if you're sick. When working with food, wear gloves or use utensils so you don't touch raising food with your bare hands. And if someone vomits, it's important to clean up correctly and quickly.
Okay, so according to the CDC, how many people get sick from norovirus each year? And what's the recommended way to prevent spreading norovirus? Again, A, stay home when sick. I think this last thing is creating your user account. Once evidence of rodents are found in your restaurant, you should work with your licensed pest control operator. The minimum internal cooking temperature for ground beef is 155. The big six pathogens, 4 are bacteria, and those are D as in dog, Okay, yeah, D is, all four of those are bacteria. And they are the four bacteria in the big six. Looking at the top, Clostridium botulinum is not one of the top six. Let it be hepatitis A is a virus. C, norovirus, of course, is a virus. So then, like we said, all four of these at the bottom are the four bacteria. Minimum internal temperature hot food must be held to prevent pathogens from growing. The 135 degrees. The practice should be used to prevent seafood toxins from causing a foodborne illness. The purchasing food from approved reputable suppliers. Five common risk factors for foodborne illness are using contaminated equipment, failing to cook food adequately, practicing poor personal hygiene, is something that we covered in chapter 1. Is there a difference between time temperature abuse and holding food at incorrect temperature? Okay, so we can rule out A. What is cross contact? Cross contact has to do with allergens, so we can skip that. That's not what we're talking about here. Holding food at incorrect temperatures, purchasing food from unsafe sources. Or purchasing food from unsafe sources and cross contamination. B. B is the one because cross contamination be the same as using contaminated equipment. Minimum internal cooking temperature for chicken, 165. Temperature danger zone. That's the first one. Which one is a ready to eat food? Okay. Which of these is a TCS food? D is in boy. I don't know that it correctly is. Okay. Are there any areas of the book you feel like you need more work on?
This person occupied with the temperature like
The temperatures and the diseases. Okay, so we're taking a look at the diseases, just to take a review of this. Salmonella typhi is the bacteria that comes from people. If you hear about somebody with typhoid fever, this is what is being spread around. So it's linked with ready-to-eat foods and beverages, just like they showed us with norovirus. People are carrying the bacteria and they're transferring it to the food that they're working with. So that's why anybody that has symptoms or has been diagnosed with Salmonella typhi is excluded from the operation. One of the reasons we wash hands all the time and check minimum internal food temperatures. The non-typhoidal Salmonella, that's the one that comes directly from the food, the poultry and eggs, meat, milk and dairy products, and produce that gets in touch with contaminated water. So I'm going to make sure we cook those things to minimum internal temperatures. Poultry, we know, is 165. Eggs, if we're going to serve them immediately, what temperature is that? $145, and then if we're going to hold them for a buffet, $155. Shigella, food easily contaminated by hands, such as salads containing TCS foods, and food that has made contact with contaminated water. So anybody that has diarrhea and an illness caused by Shigella needs to be excluded from the operation. Again, washing hands. And then this one is pretty unique in that we ask to control, or we're being asked to control flies inside and outside the operation. E. coli, it's linked with bacteria, ground beef, raw or undercooked, as well as contaminated produce. We talked about like when an animal is slaughtered, the bacteria from its intestines gets all over the carcass, and whenever it's cut into smaller parts, it's cooked in a roast or in a steak, we don't have to worry so much because that's bacteria is still on the surface. But when we grind that meat up, we're introducing the bacteria to the interior. Or if we're dabbing it with a needle to inject it, we're possibly putting bacteria into the product. Okay, so viruses. What's our main way of fighting off viruses? Bacteria, it's mostly time temperature control, keeping food cold or hot. Pardon me, hygiene. Okay, so washing your hands. Hand washing is the biggest thing. Okay. Some of these viruses, such as hepatitis A, are not destroyed by normal cooking temperatures. So good personal hygiene has to be practiced. Quick removal and cleanup of vomit is important. These two, hepatitis A and norovirus, those are two of the big 6 pathogens. Pathogens covers everything, the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi. So hepatitis A linked to ready-to-eat food and shellfish from contaminated water. With norovirus. We have parasites. I think we talked about some of the parasites. Yeast, molds, and mushrooms. Anybody know what this picture is, like what's in the jar? Some type of preserves, or jam or jelly. And when you see the things growing on the top of it, it can be a pink slime. If it's a sauce, you can start seeing air bubbles, which are actually carbon dioxide coming from the fermentation of the yeast. There's biological toxins. There's probably going to be a question about biological toxins. They're associated with certain plants or mushrooms and seafood. Can be from a histamine produced when the fish is time temperature abused. So we keep that seafood as cold as we can until we cook it. Toxins have some unique symptoms, neurological symptoms, tingling in the extremities, reversal of hot and cold sensation, burning in the mouth, heart palpitations. So we buy these things from approved reputable suppliers, and then we watch our time temperature control. Chemical contaminants, I think we're probably okay with that. When we get to the temperatures. Okay, so things that we have to cook to 165 degrees. All poultry, whether it's whole or ground, chicken, turkey, or duck. So anytime you see any of those, it's got to be 165 degrees. Any stuffing that's made with fish, meat, or poultry has to reach 165, as well as any stuffed meat, seafood, poultry, or pasta, it has to reach 165 degrees. And then dishes that include previously cooked TCS ingredients. So if we're going to make, if we had like a bunch of chicken left over from the banquet, and we were going to do like a chicken casserole with it, with a bunch of cheese and eggs and cream and vegetables, that would have to come up to 165 degrees whenever we cooked it. $155, we know for ground beef, also pork and other ground meats, not chicken, no, or poultry, because it's got to go up to 165. Meat that is mechanically tenderized with needles or blades by injecting it with brine or flavors. If you use, does anybody know what a Cajun injector is? Okay, so if you're using that, you've got to cook that roast to a higher temperature than you would if the regular plane runs. Meat vacuum tumbled with marinades or other solutions. I don't think if that's a typo one. Normally it's vacuum packed. Also ground meat from games commercially raised and inspected. Game animals commercially raised and inspected. So if somebody has a venison farm, they're selling ground venison, you need to put that up to 155. Also, ostrich and emu, the rat types, any ground seafood, chopped or minced seafood, and as we said earlier, shell eggs are going to be hot held for service. 145 is our fish, including shellfish and crustaceans. Our steaks are the smaller cuts of pork, beef, veal, and lamb. Commercially raised game that isn't ground, so if you have like venison steaks, buffalo steaks, 145 degrees. Shell eggs that will be served immediately. If you're doing eggs for a guest, if they're going to eat them immediately, it's only 145 degrees. And then 145 degrees for 4 minutes is your roast, larger cuts of pork, veal, and beef and lamb. Because you've got a bigger item here, you've got to hold it at that temperature for 4 minutes. Okay. 135 degrees, plants, fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, which are beans, refried beans, any of these that are going to be hot held for service. So if you're going to put any of this stuff out on a buffet, it has to go up to 135 degrees. Food in a microwave, 165 degrees. So if you cook seafood in a microwave up to 165 degrees, it's not going to be as tasty or have the right texture as if you had cooked it by one of your normal methods. But most of these things you're going to have an issue with. We'll have to do that. We just went over some questions about this last week. Partially cooking food, never longer than an hour the first time that you're cooking, and then it has to be reheated to the proper temperature before it's served. Okay. I think we're going to stop there. We'll have another review on Wednesday. And then remember Friday, I've got to give you the information where we're going to do it. I'm still waiting for IT to give me a lab. Thank you. You too. We're planning to start at 8:30 and then, yeah. You have a class after this one? Yeah, it's going to depend on how long it takes to do the exam. some people finish as quick as 30 minutes. Some people want to take the full 2 hours, so it just depends on.
Oh, okay, good.
Right, and then it's like, whatever you do, don't rush, but like, if there's something that's going on, what is the next class?
It's a fine arts class.
Okay,
And still getting information on where we're going.
yeah, if we're, it's gonna be closer to Talbot than we are now. It might be in the business building, it might be in Elkins Hall. Worst case, it would be back in the nursing building. Thanks, you too.